Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soapbox with Ice Blue Sky. And with me today, I have my fellow directors, Francesca and Charlotte, with us. And we're very privileged today to have Ilse with us, who's going to be heading up and moderating our podcast today. But Ilse is our mindset coach, and we wanted to do a session today just to share the benefit and the knowledge and the huge impact that she's brought to our organisation. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Ilse. Good morning, Ilse. Thank you very much for coming in.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
It's great to be here with you guys, filming this episode. So I do have some questions because I think there is a few things that you do really well within your organization around mindset and culture. And I would like to tell the viewers what that is all about. So I'm going to start with a question that for each one of you. How would you describe the culture of Ice Blue Sky? Maybe Francesca can go first.
I think the culture is very open. I think we are always ready to hear ideas. We're there to support people. We really focused on helping people grow, like personally and professionally, and really push the boundaries as well. You know, we have a culture where we don't point fingers. So if people want to try something and it doesn't work, we learn from that and it's not a problem. And I think that really helps us as an agency really bring on new innovative ideas, new creativity, and just really foster that, I guess, growth mindset, really.
Yes, absolutely. So that's for what I was going to say about growth mindset is that tolerance for intelligent failure.
Yes.
And taking risks. And that's something that Ice Blue Sky definitely does very well because that's where innovation and new ideas come from. So what's your take, Graham, on the culture of the company? How would you describe it?
I'm going to call it amazing, okay? So I've run my own businesses in the past and worked for people. And right now, we just have this most amazing culture. It's very collaborative. It's like a big family. There doesn't seem to be any real friction in our culture whatsoever. And we're going to go on, I know we're going to talk about how we've achieved that, but just having that frictionless culture where everything's a possibility, there aren't any barriers. For people who know us or people who don't know us, we very much rooted ourselves before working with you around a culture around what is our why. And we've spoken about that. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yeah.
And our why is to help and share our knowledge. And that's a big part of what we do internally within the business. People are always there to be helpful. There's nothing ever in the way. There's no obstacles. So, it's amazing.
Okay, and Charlotte, how would you describe it?
Well, it's hard to add to both of those, actually.
Yes.
I think for me, obviously, I started the business 17 years ago. And for me personally, and I know this is also really important to Graham and Francesca, I wanted to create a place that is a nice place to come to work, which sounds very trite. But when I was client side for a long time, and I saw quite a few toxic cultures at agencies. You know, it's a high pressure industry, and it does sometimes lend itself to that. And for me, it's always been a huge priority to make sure that Ice Blue Sky is not like that. That people treat each other with respect. That they respect people as individuals that come with their own lives and their own situations and their own ideas, their own ways of doing things. It was a big part of why we wanted you to come into the business because, you know, everyone is different, but everyone has a strength. And for us at Ice Blue Sky, it's really important that we dovetail into each other's strengths so that we create a stronger unit.
Yes, and I think that's definitely the point. I think when I came into the business, you already had a really strong culture. You've already been building this culture. And I want to share from my point of view, because I've had the privilege of actually coaching everybody within the organization, even your new starters as well. So I can say I have a holistic view of what the culture of Ice Blue Sky is like, and also looking at it from the outside. I'm going to describe it as human first, because all of the decisions that are made within your business are really centered around people, clients, communities, the impact that it's going to have before all of the other metrics that we have in business. Obviously, numbers matter and all those different things. But what I really see at Ice Blue Sky that is different, and I was also kind of corporate side before, so I've seen it all, is that you do put people sort of first in that sense. And yet we were talking about the fact that there is a lot less friction that there is in most organizations. I think there's a lot of empathy, and there's just this desire to understand each other and work, like we were saying, to the strengths of the organization. So I would like to ask you, because I wasn't there when you did this, how did you start building this culture? So what were the steps that you think you took? And this might be something that you might need to think about, but to start implementing this in your organization so that other companies that want to do the same thing can actually follow in your footsteps.
Well, I think I'm laughing because, as you know, 2 of my children work at Ice Blue Sky, and that was where in Ice Blue Sky's latest reincarnation, that's where it started with me and Jared and Emily. So they're my children, obviously, and I treat them a certain way and I nurture them and I want them to succeed. So that is probably where it started. So that might be difficult for some companies to replicate, but honestly, and I know it sounds a bit twee, but I do feel that way about everybody in the business. I want everyone to succeed, to be looked after, to feel all of those, to feel respected, to feel that they're heard, and to, we spend a lot of time at work, and I think, if it's got to be a good place for people to come, and certainly in our position as leading the business, our goal is to make people feel the best they can at work. It doesn't mean that there's no stress, because that would be unrealistic. Yeah. But it's building resilience as well. So building resilience and tools and techniques to help you deal with stress, because inevitably things will always go wrong at some point. And it's how you deal with those things that is so crucial. So I feel like I rambled around a bit there, but
no,
can I add
yes,
a point? And I think to Charlotte's point with the nurturing and how you treat your children, you also give them some honest feedback, right?
Yeah.
But it's coming from a place of love, in the fact that it's about helping people grow.
Yes.
And I think that's another thing that we have as part of the culture, is giving that honest feedback, but from a positive standpoint. Like I said, it's not the pointing fingers, it's not people fearful of what might happen. It's about, okay, well, let's have a little bit of a look at that and how we can move forward. And whether projects have gone well or not so well or whatever it might be, we always do like a debrief on those as a team. And that sort of fosters that culture of trust, of growing. And I think that's another really important part of this kind of culture.
I love that you said that, because it's also innovation, right? Because people are not afraid to bring ideas, risky ideas, because that's what we need.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So you were going to say something, Charlotte?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I don't want to give the impression that it's all happy clappy all the time.
And that was my point about the feedback.
Yes.
It's doing it in the right way.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And, and with a culture as strong as ours, there are sometimes people who don't fit. Yeah. For whatever reason. And they don't tend to last all that long, because just for whatever reason that those are not the values that they share. It doesn't mean they're a bad person, but they just don't sometimes see the value in how we run the culture at Ice Blue Sky. Because, like with your children, you have expectations of behaviour and, growing and succeeding and producing excellent work in our case, so we hold people to high standards.
Yeah, and I think we've put a lot of work into our recruitment policy or process as well. So when we are recruiting people, it's not just about their capabilities, it's about who they are as a person, what are their beliefs, and have we got that value match? Because they're interviewing us as much as we're interviewing them, right? Because it's got to be that match. And I think for that reason, we've been really, really lucky. We haven't recruited the wrong person in a very long time, and it's good. We've got a really stable team and culture from that perspective.
Well, we've just recruited 2 new apprentices, and I think what was really interesting when we went through the interview process, number one, they'd done a lot of research on us, which was really quite refreshing and interesting to see. But secondly, all candidates were really interested in the culture of Ice Blue Sky. And I think we were quite surprised, because we took ourselves back to when we would have been interviewed, and it would have been a question that I would personally never have asked anybody. I'd just be happy to have the job. Yes, I'll start tomorrow, please. But that was an interesting thing. And so to understand, because majority of people we enroll into Ice Blue Sky are younger than us. But to understand that that's an important aspect. And to Charlotte and Francesca's point, I think we see ourselves as the guardians, the custodians of these people having a really great time in our industry and learning everything in B2B marketing. So I think that's been a really refreshing sort of consideration from our perspective indeed.
I think we have to be honest in fact that they're all younger than us.
Yes.
No denial.
You know, we might recruit a senior consultant one day. I don't know.
And I love it that you said that, because I think something that is very admirable about your culture is that you don't have a lot of employee turnover. I mean, we've been working together for 10 months now, and there hasn't been really anybody who's kind of left the company. So you must be doing something right, first of all.
I think it must be 2 or 3 years since
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So you're obviously doing something right, because you are hiring to culture as well, which is something that I always advise people, is that they look at not only as capability, like exactly what you're talking about, but also interview for cultural fit. Because if you do have somebody who can do the job, but they're not part of the culture, then that's just not going to work. You need to have both pieces together,
absolutely. Right? I always say that Ice Blue Sky has a gravity to it, and people stick on our planet.
Yes.
You know, we're evolving, and we've just had we've attracted some great people, and they've just stuck, and it's worked, and they've liked that culture, and they want to stay on our planet almost.
Absolutely. I really love that. And I wanted to ask you a controversial question, because I know sometimes when we talk about company culture, it might seem a little bit fluffy, right? So, and I know it's become a buzzword and a lot of people are using it. Some of them are not using it right. And sometimes it's a little bit of lip service, right? Like it's a recruitment tactic in a way. And I know the amount of time, love, and energy that you have put towards keeping this culture alive, because it takes time to talk to people, to give them feedback, to give them honest but kind feedback. That's what I call it. And all of these things that you do as a team, because I know you do a lot of things as a senior leadership team to keep that culture alive. And I would like your take on whether or not that has been worth it. Has that produced any actual results, tangible or intangible, within the business?
Definitely. I would, yes, without question. And you know, we're a services business, so we are all about the people in our business. And I had a meeting this morning with somebody from one of the large Big Four professional services firms, who shall remain nameless. And we were talking about this, and we were saying, you know, that as a services business, you should invest in your people, and not just financially. Obviously, that's important, but also with coaching and having a really good culture, because I mean, you talk about this a lot, where we've seen a huge uptick in the quality of the work and the teamwork in the business. I mean, I keep looking over there because Ollie, our producer, is sat over there. And, you know, we've seen a lot more collaboration within the business, you know, across the teams. So with the creative team, with the accounts team, which just naturally produces much better work and much better results for our clients. So huge tangible benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. I was at the B2B Ignite conference yesterday, and they went through the top 3 reasons why people buy from organisations. And the first one obviously is, yes, happy to sign the contract, feel happy that they're capable and competent of actually doing the work they're contracted to do.
Yeah.
But the second thing that people buy on is the culture, and have they got a good culture within the business. They look at the business, and I was shocked. Yeah, I was really shocked at the rise from that. And it's a global survey, so it's not just here in the UK. And it's really interesting how that is starting to play an increasing role in the consideration of when you contract with people and when you do business with people. And by default, I think you ask tangible results. Well, we're growing as an agency, and we've grown for the last 2 years. We're growing this year as well. So that culture, I believe, is coming out in our work and how we present ourselves, and not just us as the 3 directors, because it's very easy stuff for us to be very sort of vocal about it. But I think it comes through with the interaction with the staff as well.
With everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think so. It's a slight tangent, I would probably say, in terms of talking about, like Charlotte and Graham have said, about how we work as a team, how we had that increased collaboration, better results for our clients, both creatively, can't say the word now. But I think it's important to think about how we've achieved that as well. And I think I don't want people to sort of labour on the misapprehension that we're all very similar people, because we're really not.
No.
When we look across the team, we're all really, really different in terms of what's important to us, how we're motivated, how we act under stress. And I think some of the great work you've done with us, Ilse, is giving us those tools to understand how people think, perceive, based on what kind of I don't know what you
personality
type. I was going to say personality type. I thought you might pick me up on that one. But I think that's really improved our communication internally, and just understanding how people like to receive feedback, how people like to give feedback, what's motivating them, and how they're acting under stress has really underpinned a lot of that work as well. We had it anyway, but I mean, it's just really emphasised it and allowed us to take that step up. So that's probably what I would add to it as a driver for those tangible benefits that both Graham and Charlotte have talked about. And I think culture is something that's authentic, right? And it has to be part and embedded in the organisation. And I think otherwise clients can see when it's non-authentic very, very easily. So I think we're very lucky that we've got a good culture, and it's been growing for 17 years, right? And it's just
and I think it's also recognizing that it is an effort, and it is something that doesn't just happen. So sometimes it does happen if you have very leaders who are aligned with that culture to start with, because leaders lead the example and their mood is contagious. We talked about this quite a few times. We do, what leaders do, people kind of look up to and mimic. But I think it's also not forgetting about the enormous amount of love that you do put, and attention and time that you do put into this, because you are a growing business. You're growing really fast, and you are very busy at all levels. And what I see is within the organization, everybody's a custodian of the culture. It's not only the three of you, it's also the other people that I had the 100%. Privilege of working with.
Exactly.
They're also showing the same behaviors and sort of the same energy to other people coming into the company, to their, to their co-workers, to everybody within the team, because I think that's what's very important. Yes, culture might start at the top, but it also has to be embedded in every level of the company, and that's something that you have done really, really well. And I don't want you to underestimate what you have done, because it's a really huge achievement, because I do get to talk to a lot of prospects and a lot of my clients, and obviously everybody's different, and sometimes when you're in it, you don't recognize like how great kind of like it actually is. And things like the Enneagram, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I heard a lot of this feedback from a lot of people. The Enneagram is a very powerful tool when you can have, some awareness of your personality type for yourself, but also for other people, and that willingness to be empathetic, even though you don't understand their point of view. So I think that's why.
Do you want to talk about that a bit? Because I think that is being a really key part of understanding the personality traits of everybody in the business. You want to just share, so obviously for people who don't know what that is, do you want to just share with them the process you've taken us through?
Yes, of course. So the Enneagram that we're talking about specifically is a personality typing test. It doesn't have a single origin. It has kind of been around for a long, long time in different forms. And what I really love about this type of test, as opposed to other psychometric tests that are out there that are not necessarily good or bad, is that it is based on many different disciplines. So philosophy, science, psychology. So it's not only a psychological tool, so it brings lots of different things together. And inevitably, when I do this with a person, it really holds a mirror to each one. And even when I did my own, it really shows them all of the thoughts and all of the belief systems that they have that are holding them back. So it's a really deep tool in terms of that. And one of the things that we did with Ice Blue Sky, and I think it was kind of organic, right? So first we had planned to do it with just the three of you. Yep. So we did the Enneagram with the SLT, with the three of you together, and you found it quite powerful from what I heard from the feedback. And then we decided to implement it with everybody in the team, even the new people who were coming in. And I think what made it very successful was everybody's willingness to be open to the process. So and that's part of the culture, right? People are open to the new things that you're doing. Everybody was open to the process, but there was also a certain amount of, or level of empathy and compassion for understanding other people's point of view, because that's the start, right? Because we're all so different. And I think, Francesca, you're completely right. Everybody that I talk to at Ice Blue Sky might have a different personality, but there's this sort of energy that kind of binds you together. And I think it's a cultural piece. It's like I can tell this is a person from Ice Blue Sky. And the way I describe it is like, I would have social coffee with anybody in your team any day of the week, because that's just the kind of people that you kind of recruited. So you've done quite a lot of that. So that was part of the process of things that we worked together on. And we've been working together for 10 months. So obviously we've done a lot of kind of like growth mindset stuff as well. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. So growth mindset is this concept, for people who don't know, is this unwavering belief that you can actually change. So there are some people who believe that whatever they were born with, in whatever they have, is set. So they're kind of like, there's nothing they can do differently in their lives to make things better. But there's other people who have this unwavering belief that you can change. And actually neuroscience has shown that you can change, because you can change your brain. So if you can change your brain and your neural pathways, you can actually change. So that's where growth mindset comes from. And it is this idea that everything that you're doing in the business is geared towards growth and not keeping the status quo. So that's how I would describe it. And you've been able to implement a lot of this kind of growth mindset concepts within the business. So maybe you can talk about a little bit about how that has influenced sort of the way you lead, or maybe what results you've seen within the business as we've done this mindset work with everybody.
Yeah, sure. I think it's been really good. I think if I think back sort of 10 months ago in terms of our mindset, I would have said my mindset was probably definitely more fixed than it is now, and how I probably took setbacks would definitely affect my mindset. I think now, as I look at things, I think about things in a different way. So it's about, I can't think of an example right now, but it's very much about, instead of it being your, oh my God, such and such has happened, this is going to be the worst or the hardest quarter we've had yet this year. It's like, what if this is the best quarter we had this year, right? How can we approach it differently, and how can we think about it differently? And what different steps would we take? Or if we're looking at, instead of just our growth plan, what if we 5X it? How did this change things? So and this is something that we were thinking about maybe 6 months ago. And Graham, you probably won't mind me sharing. Me and Graham will be like, oh, we couldn't do that. We'd need to hire a load of people, and it's going to affect our cash flow, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do that.
Have a big overdraft.
Then, yeah. And then
our board meetings were a lot of fun.
And then, but then half an hour, and it was the 4 of us working in a session, half an hour later, we've come up with all these different strategies about actually how we can achieve that 5X. And it was such a powerful exercise that everything really clicked in. And you've definitely taught me a few really good tools, Ilse, that I employ on an everyday basis. When something comes in, I just think back differently about it. It could be as easy as like coming back from holiday and you're like, oh my God, my inbox is going to be full, there's going to be all of this, and I'm like, this is going to be my best day, first day coming back from holiday ever. I'm going to get all these things done, and this is what I'm going to feel at the end of the day. And it is transformational. Like I do it every day now, and I am absolutely seeing the results, like personally, both in terms of how I feel, like reduced stress levels from that respect, and the results I'm achieving with and for my clients as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. Do you guys have anything to add?
I think we touched on it earlier, didn't we? We spoke about it a little bit of that, about that bravery, that mindset to just go to the next step. Yeah. And we're doing it right now. I'm doing it right now in relation to the progressions that we're making, and as business as well, the progressions we're making around AI. And it's like, okay, this is a big, scary world. It's a big, scary new world. Mm-hmm. And then what are we as an agency going to do? How are we going to embrace that? How are we going to bring that into our business and make it work? And for somebody like me, who may not understand everything about it, but just that, as you say, that mindset, right? I'm open to this. I'm going to go and learn. I'm probably going to fail at some things. I probably will say some stupid things in meetings that aren't probably right, but I'm going to be in there doing it. But I think but being around people who understand that. So there's no ridicule, there's no put down. And so growth only happens when you're not inhibited. And if you believe you're going to be inhibited by people or opinion or culture, then you don't grow. And that just does not exist in Ice Blue Sky. So that mindset around that growth means that actually the sky, the ice blue sky, the sky is the sky's the limit. And I think that's what growth gives us, to believe, to be brave, but also as well to be responsible. And I think that's the other thing that we are. We're not just bullish, and we're not hyping this up to be something that it's mythical and fantastic. But you still have to have that responsibility to be good custodians of the business.
Yes. Yeah. And I call it optimistic realism, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's bringing in that optimistic point of view, but we don't bury our head in the sand like the ostrich, right?
No.
We don't pretend that nothing is going on. And I have have this example, because I think whenever I come into a new business, I'm always like, what are your challenges? And people will say, well, it's the economy. Well, it's the election. Well, it's the world status, right? And while that is true, I'm not trying to discount that at all. I think there is not a lot you can do as an individual about that. So what I encourage people to do is to not actually focus on those things, and myself too, because you read in the news and you're so scared, right? Like about the state of the world. And that's one of the things that I do to keep my positive mindset, is kind of watch a little less of that. But I think when you're taking out the element of that, which is something that you guys have done very beautifully, you're not focusing on the things you cannot control or the things that are out there. You're focusing on all the stuff that you can actually do. But like you mentioned, Graham, you're doing it responsibly. So you're not taking decisions that are not right for the business.
They're not reckless, no.
They're not reckless, but there is a certain amount of risk that you're willing to take,
Yes.
because now you have a growth mindset. And that's why I call it intelligent risk, right? So let everybody take risks as long as they make sense, right? You don't
Yes.
want to go to kind of the extreme. Charlotte, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to sort of build on those points, really, because I think what the growth mindset has done, I think, for all of us, is helped focus where we focus. Because when you run a business, it's easy to get pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah.
So it helps sort of not prioritize, because I think that was something we were pretty good at, but it just helps keep your energy focused in the right direction, and being more aware of how you show up every day, and how you show up and how you commit to that growth. Because I've never been a fan of growth for growth's sake, because you see companies do that all the time, where they suddenly grow massively really quickly, but there's no solid foundation under that. So then it drops down, and the market we're in, is volatile. The marketing agency world is volatile. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a quiet focus and a quiet focusing of your energy every day in the right direction, and I think that's been really helpful.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm aware of is working with Ice Blue Sky. When I came into Ice Blue Sky, you guys were already growing. You already had a really nice culture. And I think what maybe our work together has done is enhance that and maybe focus that as well. Because like you were saying, you were already very organized before I came in, right? Like you already had your priorities. But I think what growth mindset helps you do is go to the next level.
Yeah.
And when you're growing as quickly as you are, and I know you don't want to tweet your own horn, so maybe you're not saying that, but you are growing quite quickly in spite of everything that's going on outside, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's real proof that, the mindset stuff really works in that sense. But what happens when a company grows really fast is that your focus becomes scattered, right? Because there's so many more clients to serve, there's so many more employees that you're hiring. But one of the things that you have done beautifully is keep that focus on the things that matter, right? Your people, your numbers, your KPIs, you really know where you're going, and kind of making the decisions that are aligned with that. Do you think that has had an impact on your results?
Yeah, I think so. I think that focus, that emphasis, because you can always grow as a person, and then that's what it means. It's like you can always be better, do better, learn from your mistakes, and then just very naturally, cumulatively, that improves the results in a number of different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to the growth mindset for me comes back to that bravery. It's about, sometimes we get opportunities from clients, and sometimes what they're asking from us, you might look at it and go, okay, that's a big ask. How are we going to do that? And getting everybody together collectively, the problem doesn't seem so big, but also as well, what it's enabled us to be as an agency is to be bolder in our suggestions back to our clients. So we actually push the envelope back with them, feeling comfortable, feeling confident, not too pushy, not too, and I think for me that's part of our growth, because the output of some of that and some of the work that we do, all right, we might get pared back a little bit, but the outputs, we're always pushing that envelope of possibility. What can we do? And that isn't just with the three of us.
That's everybody.
That's everybody, and everybody
Yes.
comes on the journey to do that. And that's what I really like. And for us to grow, we're going to have to be different, and we're going to have to create amazing results from the campaigns we deploy and the types of designs, cutting edge designs and messaging that we do. And that's collective. That's collective amongst every one of us within the team. There's no weak point I can see within Ice Blue Sky.
Well, I am really enjoying this conversation, but I know we only have a little bit of time, and I wanted to close off before we do any final remarks. Just sort of expressing my gratitude for working with your team. It's been, we're still
same
working
here.
together.
Thank
It's
you.
been 10 months, and it's been such a great experience, and it's been very uplifting to see that there are some good cultures. I always see that with my clients, some good cultures, some good people that just want to do the right thing, that want to have impact in the world and all of those different things. And I think that's something that you've done really beautifully. And I want to mention something before we kind of close off as well, because one of the things that I've also noticed is that as a senior leadership team, you brought everybody into the journey. So you haven't kept coaching close to just you. You've actually seen if something works really well, you share it with your team. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, because everybody in Ice Blue Sky has had access to coaching with me, as they if they want, and that type of thing. And I think that is something that shows the culture of Ice Blue Sky. It's a real commitment to invest in your people, because this is investment in your people. And this does not happen in every organization. And I've even coached the people you just hire and your younger sort of like generation of people and everything like that, which means you're like kind of building on that strength of the culture. So any closing remarks from anybody else?
I think my closing remark is really the mindset, the Enneagram, all of these different bits that we've done with you have helped us form a practical and equip the rest of the team with like a practical toolkit almost that really supports and underpins some of our growth. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you imagine, take yourself back and you think about yourself being an apprentice. Okay, and you think about coming into, as we've had these two apprentices coming to Ice Blue Sky, and all of a sudden you've been asked to actually, right, you're going to have a one-to-one with our mindset coach, and you must think to yourself, what the hell is this all about? What is this going to be about? And I think one of the great recent benefits I've seen with it all is that those people now get us completely. They understand who they are, how they fit with the Enneagram, how they fit in with all of us and all our personality traits. And so we've got those people up and running and contributing to our business faster than probably we would have done normally. They know where they fit in, they know where we are. And so that onboarding culture of bringing that in. And I think for me, that's been a recent sort of vision I've seen to think, wow, if that was me, because no one ever did that with us, did they? All those years ago. There's your desk, here's your phone, get on with it. You know?
Yes.
So I think that's been a real sort of privilege to see, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's been really lovely to see how everyone collaborates a lot more and really work together to get better results. To really genuinely like, right, we need to sort this. Let's do this, and they really come at it from a team perspective. So yeah, for me, that's been
Collaboration
nice to
and
see.
communication.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you so much,
Well,
guys.
Ilse,
Thank
it's
you.
been absolutely fantastic having you on.
Thank you.
And everybody, we hope you enjoyed our session today, and we'll see you back here for our next broadcast of Soapbox.